the time. We're all good.
You kind of have to remind yourself to take it back and make sure it's fun, because it's easy to kind of get caught up in what your responsibilities are as a rider, as a professional rider, or like feel like you need to keep up with and be relevant or this, that, or the other thing, and then you kind of have to remind yourself to just do what you do. And especially at this point in my life, my career, it's like, if what I'm doing isn't enough at some point, well then, all right, it's not enough. I'm gonna do me at this point. I'm not gonna, it doesn't make sense for me to go out and learn some trick trying to keep up or trying to make sure so I can make finals at a contest, or I'm gonna ride the way I want to ride. And it's cool having even guys like Wiz around, like old friends. Like I was gonna go do some demos. I was going to do some demos for Woodward about a month back, and I was leaving, and just the word demo, it sounds like you get kind of nervous because you're thinking this big production, and like you've got to do like the showstopper tricks or whatever it is. And I mean, as it turns out, we were doing demos on the launch ramp, which was really fun. But we can talk about that next. But either way, I was kind of like not overly stressing. I mean, I knew that, but a little bit like, oh man, I don't know, I got to do these demos. I'm like a little nervous, and Wiz is like, he's like, dude, just do what you do. He's like, it's not like you're some new guy. He's like, they know what you do, so just go do it. Like, he's like, they're not going to expect you to ride a way that you don't. It's like, that's a good point. So, it just, it's just, I don't know, kind of off on a tangent.
No, tangents are good. I mean, let's go on tangents. But you said so it just ended up being like a launch ramp, like what, a 3-foot tall launch ramp?
Oh yeah, the Woodward demos were really fun because all it was basically they're opening up some new facilities in at some Hard Rock resorts, one in Punta Cana and one in Riviera Maya, Mexico. And basically they're just another amenity. It's not like a kid will go to camp the way he goes to camp here. Yeah. It's just another amenity. So I think it'll be cool.
Maybe if a parent went to the resort, they could bring their kid. And
right. That's the whole concept, is to have like the teenagers have a place more to do. Basically at a resort like that, like a kid can only hang out on the beach so long while his parents sit there and drink and so but I think it's gonna be cool because I think it's also gonna attract like a lot of older riders and skaters that are kind of just weekend warriors, or like, if I wasn't lucky enough to be able to ride as much as I do and I had a regular 9 to 5, I would want to go there. Like I said, a bachelor party, or if like a few couples went there, it's like, because it's just another amenity,
You could go there with a couple girls and be like, you guys go do this day, we're going to take some runs or something.
Yeah, you wake up and you have a session, and then you meet the ladies on the beach and you go snorkeling, and it's like...
Sounds like a good day.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be like, it's not like a lot of people as they, they grow up, they're not riding 12 hours a day like they did when they were 15. Oh, yeah. So that's a rad setup for them too. So I think they're going to be surprised how many adults are into it too. But either way, we went to do demos at a vacation type trade show, and then we actually went to the resort and did them, and it was a lot of fun because all we had was a launch ramp and like a couple little grind box or rail setups, but they were super cheesy, but it was fun. Like the guys I was working with. A skater named Luis Talentino, I think that's how you say his name. He's from New York, and he's originally from Dominican, so that's part of the reason he was there. But me and him kind of meshed. Him and I meshed really well, and then they even had like some gymnasts and like a free runner. So like it was really corny.
Do they do like free running and like parkour at Woodward now?
Yeah, they do.
Wow.
They do. So they were really cheesy demos, but like we weren't above that. We were like, well, whatever, this is fun. And like the audience wasn't a riding, skating audience, so they just want to see action, So we just came up with some really corny, cheesy demos. Like, some of you would like ollie over my bike, or I'd do a tail whip at the same time the cheerleaders were flipping, or like we had weird, like, we just had some corny
that sounds fun,
but it was a lot of fun, and we were just laughing and like high-fiving about it the whole time, and so it was cool. Like, I love having opportunities like that to go to different places and do something different. Not just the same old same old road trip you've been doing forever.
Well, sometimes, I mean, if you're like, whatever, the pro thing in BMX, I think some people miss that. It's like, kids, I think sometimes when people come up, they think it's all video parts and this, and there's a lot of aspects that are just like, you get little perks of like fun trips where you're like, oh, I go ride and do this, and I get to see this part of the country for a couple days, and
I'm not above any. I mean, if I'm on my bike and I'm having fun and getting to travel, I mean that's the dream. So I'm not too good for anything.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like I go with the flow. Like it's if I. Some trips it's always different too. Some trips you're getting treated like a king. I mean, hell, we were at the Hard Rock Resort in Punta Cana. We all had our own rooms with like hot tubs at the foot of our beds, and like. But then then sometimes you're just driving, you're crashing on your buddy's floor, and like sometimes somewhere in between. Like we did right before that, we did a rad fit trip like cross country, and that's like another dream come true. It's like. Basically, think about when you're a kid, you think like, oh, my job one day, my boss is going to be like, here's some trailers with a ramp. Go drive around the country. Go drive around the country and just
get people excited.
Get people stoked on fit. It's like that's the dream. So like we did that, but then that's cool too because it's different. Like just seeing kids at each shop. Like we would pull up and you set up the trailer and then you just see how stoked the kids. Get, and it's cool for me too because then I'm kind of like hanging out with some of the younger kids on the team and like you just kind of get a different vibe. Like you might not be exactly on the same page with where you're at in life, but then like in a way you are too. You always like connect through BMX and like it's cool for me because it always like sucks me back and like regrounds me too because I remember like. I'm kind of like the team captain on these type of trips, and we were driving, trying to get to the next stop. Kind of had a tight schedule, and we pull off at some kind of like rest stop up in the mountains, and they start like I'm just filling up with gas, and all the like Ethan Courier and like Justin Spreet and Began, like those guys all start pulling their bikes out of the van. I was like, whoa, like we don't have time, like, and then I look and there's just this like crazy tranny rock. I was like, oh. Yeah, that's cool. Get it?
Yeah.
Like you're just like instantly like realize like oh shit. Like no, okay, you want to ride that rock? Yeah. That's why. Yeah. That's why this is what this is all about. Like ride the shit out of that rock. Like whatever. It's like and it's cool. Because it's easy to get like again. It's you have to remind yourself sometimes like why you're doing it and what you're there for. Like and so it's rad. Like.
No, I mean I feel the same way. Like you can't let yourself get too disattached from what brought you into riding or what got you. I mean, as you get older and stuff, it's like other things become priorities and stuff. But and I feel like that's how BMX loses a lot of bike riders. Is things will just overtake it to where they may not see that ledge or they may not see that tranny, and it won't pull them back. And when you are with younger riders, sometimes they're ball of energy sometimes, and sometimes you'll be like, holy shit, but then if you really step back and look at it, you're like, this is fucking awesome. And
it's fun too. I think on the reverse side of that as well is like as like kind of the older veteran, you sort of have a responsibility to show the younger kids like how it works too, like we and that like it's all an experience. It's all an experience. Like, and I mean, because one night we were like going into Vegas and we couldn't find a hotel. We just couldn't find a hotel anywhere, and I was feeling kind of guilty, like it was my bad that like I should have been more on this and we should have had a room, and no one was overly stressing, but obviously the crew was tired, and then finally but like pretty much everyone had good spirits, so we're all just like screw it. Next thing you know, we're like hanging out in the Hard Rock, like gambling and having a party. We'd like end up walking out of there at like 6 a.m. and then like Sean Mack knew some girl that was getting off work.
Of course Sean did. Of course Sean. I got a girl.
Yeah. So like some sketchy, whatever. She like, not like sketchy, but like just
some girl Sean would know.
Yeah,
some girl Sean would know.
So next thing you know, we're on this roof. There was this rooftop of this random house in Vegas, watching the sun come up, and like Morgan Long's doing flips off the roof into her pool, and then like we all just crash out on our couches and our floors, and wake up a few hours and go straight to the next shop stop, and like just stuff like that. I think especially as dudes get older and they've been around longer, they expect more. They would be really like jaded at that situation. And to me, you know, although some things it might not be ideal at times, it's like you laugh it off because you realize if you just go with the flow, it's gonna be interesting. Like, you might be exhausted, you might want to just find a bed to sleep in, but like if it's not working out, it's just gonna open you up to like some funny experience, some funny story, and it's just making things better. I mean, it's making your life way less boring that way. You know, it's like if everything just goes perfect, then
I mean, if everything stays comfortable in your life, I don't feel like you're actually trying hard enough to enjoy life sometimes, you know, like. But yeah, I totally.
So I think to the kids too, like seeing that, like, you know, as you get older, you still like, you know, you might change a little bit, but you're not above, like, kind of rolling with those experiences, and you're not above crashing on the floor.
Oh yeah,
it's still BMX, you know, like no matter what. I love the opportunities on both ends, and I love that BMX has taken me to both ends. It's taken me to like red carpet Hollywood parties, and it takes you to like getting jumped in a ghetto because you're trying to ride a handrail. Like it's like it kind of shows you. I mean, I've been lucky. Maybe not everyone gets to see the red carpet Hollywood party. I've been lucky that I've seen that end of it. But either way,
BMX can take you a lot of places.
Yeah, it's gonna show you a lot. It's gonna teach you a lot. You're gonna meet a lot of people. So
I did a road trip down to Cali, and you know Dave Norrie, the old pro flatlander for Haro, he was like, he went along with us, and he was like, well, I mean, he's like in his 50s, and he was just psyched to be on the trip. And this is a dude that's toured, you know, his whole life, probably been the same things, the nicest things to the worst things, and he's over 50, and he's just psyched. And we get to the solid warehouse, and he just lays down a sleeping bag, curls up, goes sleep, wakes up, starts making everybody coffee, you know. And it's that's like rad. He's still that excited about riding, and you know, I feel like riding can keep you young for a long time if you just, you know, let it do what, you know, just keep having fun with it, you know.
It's a spirit, you know. You can't be too good or too cool for anything, you know, or it's just you're gonna just limit your options, and you're gonna limit your fun. Why limit fun?
Let all the fun in. So you grew up did you grow up like as a serious racer kid?
Yeah, I started racing. I mean, I grew up I rode for about a year before I raced. We just basically like had some of our buddies' old magazines, and we were like kind of 5 years out of date because we had like, you know, it was like 92, and we had like all these magazines from the mid 80s. So I wanted bikes that hadn't been made for 7 years. Like, I want this bike.
You wanted like a pro freestyle or something.
Yeah, and so that was kind of funny. But we just rode dirt. We just built jumps, and that's, you know, out in the woods, and jumped those. And then we found out about this local kid that raced, and found out about the track that was like a half hour away, and then it all just snowballed from there. Yeah, and then I got into racing, like mostly just racing and dirt jumping, and at first, and then we'd ride street at night because you couldn't see the jumps. So
were the magazines what got you into it, or was it just like friends, or what was the interest?
Friends, yeah. I mean, really, I guess that all snowballed quick. I guess it was sort of just like any kid does, it just building little lips and jumping off them. We got psyched on that, and then we had those old magazines, and then it was more, I think, that influence from like some of the older locals that got us kept into it even more, and got us into racing.
You said it was all around like 92?
Yeah, that was like, that's the first year I started riding in 92, racing in 93. So
hey, those were good years.
Yeah,
those were good years
for sure.
So yeah, then when you say you were riding street, was that like you guys cruising around, or were you like actually like starting to? I mean, I know if it was 93, 94, people were, you know, starting to really take street riding like seriously. Were you guys like grinding and stuff yet, or was it more just like?
Yeah, I mean, at that point we weren't. I mean, 90, like we were just like at that point like riding off loading docks. And like trying to learn how to bunny hop, you know, bunny hop and stuff. So, but then as it progressed, probably like, you know, once I was into it for a couple years, like once I was racing, I was actually probably like you know, not a halfway decent rider and dirt jumper by this point, but like 2 or 3 years later, probably when I was like 14 or so, then I started like getting curious about pegs and stuff after like a couple years of riding dirt and racing, and I didn't even have, I would like put like some thread on peg that I just had laying around the garage on my cyclecraft and just go like snap everything to bits, you know, like, and I would just like save up my money and like try to buy like 3 or 4 standard axles at a time.
Oh, those are those came out as like the best thing.
Yeah, like it's funny though, but like it's funny that they were good for them.
Oh my god! I remember
now. I mean, think about it. Like you would need like if you wanted to like ride ledges, you would need like an axle. The best axle in the game was going to last you like 3 sessions. You know, like
I just remember getting them on my bike, and like you actually grinded. And there was no flex. It felt like salt. Like you're like, I'm kind of in control of what's going on here. And then I remember I got the little King bike washers that like helped your dropouts from not bending. But yeah, that was like the best invention when it came out. Just like heat treated axles, which no one even thinks that's a problem nowadays.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
when your pegs are like V'd up like this.
The stuff we dealt with to like do grinds and like you just. Yeah, it's funny thinking back on that stuff because now it's like breaking. I have a broken axle and God, you know, you can get away with murder now.
Yeah, dude, breaking an axle was the worst, and it always happened when you were as far away from home as possible.
Yeah,
the axle would break, and you'd just be like trudging home, pushing your bike. So
many broken axles, and I snapped the dropouts off a couple of bikes because I was like grinding with race frames, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so the dropouts, I just snapped. I remember one because I was like grinding all day, and then I just hit like a jump and like cased it, and the dropout just snapped off. But it wasn't because I was grinding on it all day. But
stuff was pretty squirrely. I broke so many forks when they didn't have 1-piece steer tubes. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember just like waking up on the sidewalk. You'd see your wheel and fork, shit. You know, way up ahead of you, and
well, you were probably even before me. I mean, I always had like pitchforks and slam bars, and like, you know, they were the best at the time.
Yeah.
They weren't as, obviously that stuff they've even way better now, but yeah, you just, I don't know. But like, it sounded like you had it even rougher like earlier, you know, it wasn't even as good.
Well,
like, by the time pitchforks came out, like compared to some of the stuff you probably rode, like we were living, you know.
Oh, pitchforks were great when they came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys just kind of just session and stuff, and then, you know, when did you kind of start traveling and stuff? You know, like when you're just younger, probably like, you know, when you get a car, did you guys start driving around?
Well, my dad took me to a lot of races and a lot of nationals and stuff, so that was really rad because then, you know, I got to meet a lot of people. Yeah. You know, I got to be good friends with like all the Long Island guys and stuff, and then, and you know, Garrett Burns and my friend Gary Thorpe, and so like for a while, my dad and like Gary's dad and Garrett's dad, like they would like on the weekends they would like kind of take turns and they'd like run us up to, because we lived like an hour and a half away from each other, so they would like run us up or down to each other's houses if like we weren't meeting at the races, and we'd ride each other's trails and stuff for the weekend and then go home and go back to school and stuff. And then, you know, I would do that too a couple times, like when I'd go up to Long Island to like, I'd race at Shoreham sometimes when they were going to have nationals, so I'd like get some practice in at the track, and then I'd ride 7-Eleven trails with like all those guys. So, you know, it was good because I like kind of developed I was kind of becoming part of the community and like developing like just a good network of friends all over the country already. And then, you know, once I got my license and stuff, then that just freed things all up, and it was on from there, you know. And
when you started going out to 7-Eleven, is that about the time you guys started like filming for like Trailblazin?
Yeah, that era. Yeah, like that's like I was like, I don't even know, 16 or 17 then.
You look really young in that video.
And so I would link up with Daryl Naw and Tara and like all those guys, and so that was just like, that was. How
was it filming for that video? Was it more like just one of those casual things? You guys just had the camera out all the time, or?
Yeah, it was fun. Daryl would just film. I mean, my whole part is like 1 or 2 weekends, I think. Yeah. So it was just us out riding really, and then, you know, obviously the guys that lived there, he probably was able to film a lot more and get a lot more footage, but yeah, it was just a fun thing that, yeah, it is just kids.
I think I remember the first thing I remember seeing of you, and I don't remember, it was at a contest, and I can remember exactly what went down the contest, but I can't remember what spot it was, but I think, and it may have been just shortly after that, it was like where you did the bar spin off like the vert ramp into the wedge.
Yeah, that was the Tom's River contest.
Okay.
And that was like a 2-hip, like meet the
yeah,
street.
I remember there's footage of like Ralph trying to 720 the box jump and like spinning off to the side of it and stuff.
Yeah, I remember me and Garrett entered that contest, and we entered amateur, whatever expert class or whatever, and there was a pro class, but I wonder what year it was. What do you think? Maybe like 96, maybe.
96 or 7 at the very latest,
And I remember us too, because it was a street contest, and we both entered expert or whatever, and then we watched the pro class, and those guys killed it, but like they were just so box jump quarter pipe oriented that we were just bummed kind of, because there was just no variety in their riding, and it was just like box jump quarter pipe, box jump quarter pipe, box jump quarter pipe. They didn't use, and they didn't even use the rest of the course, and so we were just kind of bummed on that, and then I don't know.
Did you guys both end up doing pretty good in the expert class?
Yeah, I think we won first. I don't know. I don't remember what place. But we were in the top few, and then the next year we entered pro, and it was cool, because it was just I remember us being bummed, we were just we should just enter pro, because it just pro just seemed lame to us.
Well, and that almost feels like that, right around 97 was kind of I think if you look at BMX, there was almost starting to be, through time there's always kind of a changing of the guard. And I feel like right around 97 you were seeing some of those dudes that were coming up in 93, 92. Stuff was starting to change, street riding was really starting to get way more serious than just doing 8 to 10 stair rails.
Right.
People were wanting to utilize stuff more than just a box jump and a quarter pipe at a park.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, that's kind of when street, that was the beginning of street being its own thing.
Yeah.
Because before that, it just, even when I started, I just looked for down rails and down ledges, and street has just progressed so much in the past 20 years that it's a whole new monster, as where it almost wasn't even back then, there wasn't even enough to do on street, in a sense that you could just ride street. Yeah. There wasn't enough trick.
I feel like the homeless dudes and
there.
Brian Castillo, those dudes kind of had, they were way more tech and ahead of things.
Yeah, they were on the forefront of that.
Yeah, but then other than that, it just, there would be some dudes that rode vert that were oh, I'll jump on a big handrail or something. But yeah, right around 97, I really feel dudes were ready to take it to that next step.
And then you had right behind that is just with Joe and Taj and Road Force.
Oh yeah,
and just that it just took on a whole new life form around that time. And I mean, those guys influenced me greatly, Road Force One and Joe and Taj, and just seeing the stuff. And I feel I was able to kind of feed off of them.
Did you see those guys around that much back then?
Yeah, I remember. Well, I remember the first time I ever went to a skate park was Shimersville Skate Park.
Oh wow!
And I went during the day. My dad took me, and I was riding, and it was all new to me. So I was just figuring this stuff out, trying to learn double peg grinds and jumping the spine, and I mean, I had basic bike control at this point. I rode trails all the time and stuff, so I knew how to ride, but I had never ridden ramps yet. And right when we were about to leave, Joe and Taj showed up, and were just blasting the airs and blasting the spine, and the whole ramp was moving, and I was just blown away. And I begged my dad to stay for another hour so I could watch those guys ride. And like I said, I still can remember just being up on the ramp and just feeling the whole thing just shift, and not being able to comprehend it, but they would just pump.
Oh, those dudes are they're such power riders, both of them, and they're not little dudes. I can just imagine some 90s ramp just shaking to death.
I was just in awe for real.
But yeah, so you kind of talking about just those guys kind of taking street to the next level, and then, you know, you guys just got done filming, you know, for Trailblazin, and did you find yourself like starting to ride street a little bit more then, or were you still riding trails a lot more?
Well, I mean, Trailblazin era, I think I was still riding just as much street as I was dirt. Yeah. By then, you know, I feel like there was only like 2 years where I was pretty strictly. I always rode street on some level, you know. But then, you know, like around when I was like 15, I really started to like when I get to travel more, and we started having, you know, we had S&M dirt bikes, and we'd put the pegs on it, and like, you know, then we started grinding stuff and like riding street for real. So I kind of always rode street in some respect, but like I kind of got. I don't know if it's because of where BMX was or because of just what I was seen doing, but like people really didn't even know I rode street at first. It wasn't until like Seek and Destroy that kind of people realized that I rode street, because I remember Derek Adams even talked to, because people just saw me at DK Dirt Circuits. No,
that's what I say. I remember you at DK Dirt Circuits, and you were on Schwinn by then, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that, and then I remember when Seek and Destroy came out, like I was like, I was just like, I thought this dude was just a dirt jumper. You know, not saying that you never rode street, but like to where that came out at that level, like, and you've never heard anything about it. Like, I was kind of blown away, you know?
Yeah, we were just. I mean, that was. Yeah, I mean, we were just doing our thing, and like, but just people did. Yeah, I mean, whatever, you know. Like, why would they know? You know?
Yeah, I mean, back then there was no internet, or the only thing we knew is because I filmed a little bit of Rich Hirsch for the video, because he had a little split part in there. And I just remember he talked to Derek, and Derek was telling him, like, this video's going to, you know, open people's eyes. And we're just like, oh, you know, back then you're like, okay, cool, man. Yeah. Like, we'll send you some footage. How did you kind of get on Schwinn there eventually?
Well, I think it's from that. I think I would go to those races, and then I would ride in the dirt contests afterwards. And I think John Paul Rogers kind of had his eye on me. And then I, like, as my riding kind of got a little more refined, you know, I think I was like, probably the first couple of years he saw me, I was sort of a loose cannon a little bit. And then in like, was it 97 or 98? Either way, in that era, somewhere, there was, excuse me, a DK dirt circuit in Columbus, Ohio, and I like qualified first. I think I ended up getting 5th overall. And
who was riding in that contest? Do you remember?
I mean, all the dudes at the time. I mean, that was kind of Doyle's like coming
out party.
Yeah, like kind of. He got a lot of notice at that event too. He was like just starting to get hooked up, and so I think that was a big stepping stone for both of us, that event. But you know, all the dudes, Fuzzy, and then
Fuzzy was like dominating stuff kind of back then.
Yeah, Fuzzy, and then all the dudes, all the like
Bennett,
and then all the like standard like Punjab and Ground Shock, and you know, that whole era. So, you know, all the like, well, and the like the SHL guys too. You know, like
Bar Spinner and stuff. Yeah, because like 98ers, he was rolling pretty hard at the contest scenes then too.
Yeah, for sure. And so. Yeah, so I did really well at that, and then, you know, John Paul asked me to ride for him, and this is kind of a funny story, because like I wasn't all that keen on the idea of riding for Schwinn. You know, it was kind of like the sellout thing.
Oh yeah,
you know,
and
I wanted to ride for something cool, you know, like whatever. And so I was kind of reluctant to do it. I was a little reluctant to do it in the first place, but. You know, it was a great opportunity to like they'd pay for travel and you know, I wasn't getting paid at all at the time. Like I was just, the first deal was like, you know, free product and free travel, which I mean, free travel, hell, like
that's almost better than sometimes.
Yeah, that's huge. You know, like I took it for granted a little bit at the time, but I remember they sent me my bike, and first of all, I didn't really understand the concept of overnight shipping at the time.
Yeah.
So I talked to John Paul the one afternoon and was like, all right, I'll do it, you know. And then like the next day my bike was there, but I didn't really want my bike to be there because I didn't really want to ride it that day. So I was like, and then I was kind of mad because I thought John Paul had like just assumed I'd say yes and had already sent the bike out like a week before, because I'm just used to like, you know, you order something from Dan's Comp and you got to wait a few days to get it, and you're like waiting at your doorstep for the UPS guy. Yeah. You know, so I'm like used to that. And then this bike just shows up instantly the next day. I'm like, you sent this out before. And then like, I didn't even put the bike together for a while. Because I didn't really want to ride it. I wanted to stay on the bike I was on.
What were you riding at that time?
An STA, I think.
Oh, nice.
And so I didn't build the bike. And like a week went by. I was at the trails every day. I hadn't built the bike yet. And John Paul calls me, and one day, and he's like, oh yeah, like how's the bike running? And I was like, oh it feels great. I hadn't even put it together yet. And then he's like, oh okay, well like someone been having some problems with the brake mount, so I just wanted to make sure it was okay. And I was like, oh god, like so now I'm like scared I'm gonna put this bike together and the brake mounts aren't gonna work. But I put it together, everything went together fine. So
what Schwinn was it?
It was a El Jefe, like Joe Garcia's bike, and then the funny part is too, I got the bike and I put it all together and like instantly took the stickers off, which is like the dumbest move. Like I was, I'm an idiot kid. I don't get it.
But everybody, but back then, I mean, that's the thing you did with any bike. You're like,
well, in my head too, I was like, I'm like, well, I'll put the stickers on for the contest. I don't want to have these corny stickers on at the trails all the time,
Were you afraid kind of like some of the dudes would talk shit to you or something?
Yeah, I guess. You're just a kid. You're like, you're trying too hard to be cool at the time, And then I remember that's another funny one that John Paul called my house because at the time there's no cell phones.
Oh yeah.
So they called my house, and my dad answers the phone, and John Paul was like. He's like, oh, how's the man making out? How's he like the bike? He's like, yeah. He's like, he got the bike. Seems nice. He's like, but he took the stickers off of it. He's like, I don't think he gets it.
Your dad threw you under the bus.
Out just like that. Yeah, but there's some funny stories, man. I remember so many funny John Paul stories, and because arguing with idiot kids, like at the time, you don't think you're a kid, but we're literally kids, and like we're just thinking we got it all figured out. And I remember Julif would just spray paint his bikes just ridiculous colors, like without taking anything apart. He just I remember he one time he just spray painted it brown, the whole thing. And the argument that took place is he got like a photo doing an awesome one-footed invert on, whatever. And John Paul's like, Pat, you can't just paint your bike brown. He's like, we make these colors, run one of them. They're like, I got this kid calling me up. He wants the brown bike that Pat Jewell is riding on page 57 of the new ride. You know what the problem is, Pat? We don't make a brown bike, but it's Thanksgiving. That's Pat's response.
Oh my god!
It's Thanksgiving. Of course, my bike's brown.
That's great. Yeah, I can only imagine some of the. I mean, John Paul is just—it's hilarious when he gets riled up. So.
Oh yeah, it's funny.
So so you guys kind of doing good at those dirt circuits and cruising around, and then how did Seek and Destroy come about? I know Daryl. He just kind of was filming for that again, just kind of like kind of casual to start off with, wasn't it?
Yeah, that came about. Daryl, he wanted to make another video. And be more focused on it this time, less, like I said, the one, my part was filmed in a weekend, and like you said, how people didn't really know I rode street or anything.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, I definitely didn't.
So we kind of wanted to work on a legitimate video part, and which wasn't something a lot of people were doing back then. It really, people weren't, they just went out and filmed some stuff, but people didn't consciously say, oh, we're going to film a video part. I think we kind of looked to skateboarding a little bit to take inspiration to we can.
I mean, there were parts, but you could tell some dudes would work on parts a little, but there'd be like a higher up dude on S&M, but then there'd be dudes on S&M that you're like, it was still awesome, but you could tell they were just filming at sessions too, where it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't. They were going full out, It was
different. Yeah, but either way, we wanted to make a video. But then what happened was. This is around the same time we were hanging out and riding with Derek a lot, and that's closer to the area I was in, Eastern PA. So I was riding a lot of stuff out that way and hanging out with Derek Adams a lot, and then that kind of like, that's how like the Little Devil team kind of shaped up, was like, you know, me and Garrett Burns and that whole crew. So then and then Julif, and so it kind of turned out that like a lot of the people that Daryl wanted to have parts in the video ended up being Little Devil guys.
Yeah.
So Derek was like, well, hey, I'll sponsor this video. And so then, you know, then Derek got heavily involved in the filming, because I mean, I was with Derek a lot more than I was with Daryl, so I was kind of like filming with both of them, but it was obviously easier for a lot of us to film with Derek. And then Daryl was kind of working more with like the guys on the island. So, so like we filmed that, and I think it really was like a partnership between Derek and Daryl, you know, where they kind of both put equal effort into it, and they both sat down. I forget the guy's name, but I mean, this is before you could edit a video on a computer.
Oh, I know how it goes.
So they sat down. They sat down with this guy for a week straight, like all day, like a week straight, editing this video and just like directing him, like where to put stuff, what music, and the whole 9 yards.
That stuff was so time consuming back then.
It was insane, and so, you know, they sat down and worked on that together, and the you know, the final product is what you have, you know. But it's you know, it was Derek and Daryl really was like, it was a partnership between the two of them to make that project happen.
Do you feel like it's like one of those videos, which I feel like sometimes they end up being the best videos, where it just is like really just a group of friends just riding and pushing each other, but in your head it's not going to turn into kind of what it ends up being. You know, like you're like, oh, we're just filming a video with our buddies, and then, you know, that video kind of really changed BMX at that time, you know?
Yeah, that's rad. I mean, I mean, the influence and the longevity that like both those videos, like Seek and Destroy and Criminal Mischief, seem to have had is pretty cool. But it you know, it wasn't something like that we set out to do. We just set out to make good videos.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's not like it happened organically, but it didn't happen by accident.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it was just us out doing our thing, but we were aware that we were trying to do something right. You know, it wasn't completely just a session. You know, it was like we were, you know, and especially Criminal Mischief, obviously more so than Seek and Destroy, but both of them, like, we were consciously trying to make a good product.
Were you guys project? Were you at that time aware, like, that the stuff you were doing, you know, not to say like, oh, I'm better than everybody, but were you aware the stuff you were doing was stuff that people hadn't really started doing yet?
Maybe on some level.
Okay.
But I think I just wanted to put my best foot forward, you know, so I was just kind of pushing myself and you know, trying to do my thing. But I guess to that I would say kind of yes and no. I mean, yeah, I think I was just trying to put my best foot forward, and that's what came of it. So
you feel, so when I think of that video, like, I mean, I kind of like, when I think back to the videos, you know, I kind of will probably in my head mix up both those parts a little, because, you know, they're both so epic. But one of the things that stands out to me in Little Devil video, in not Criminal Mischief, in Seek and Destroy, you know, there's your part, and then I remember, you know, everybody thinks of Garrett's roof drop. You know, were you there when they filmed that?
Yes.
Can you take, because that was like, at that time, I mean that stuff really wasn't going on yet, and you will look at it today and it still blow minds, you know?
Yeah, that was Derek. That was pretty close to Derek's house, and he had like talked about it before. And I don't remember if we had been there. No, we hadn't been there. We'd just seen pictures of it, and you know, Garrett saw the picture, and like Derek was just thinking one of us could ride like off that bottom roof, which even that would have been pretty rad, especially at that time. And then Garrett saw the photo, and he's like, I think I could jump off the top roof. You know, and Derek's like, what? No,
how far up is that? Because I know you see something on video and then you go there and it's like completely different, you know?
It's insane. I'm not even going to try to guess the height. I mean, you can look at it, you can watch the video and try to do the math if you want, but it's high. But the craziest thing is that hill is pretty steep, and that roof, like when you're on the top of the roof, it's totally blind. Like, you can't see the second roof or the grass hill.
Yeah.
Like, so as you're pedaling at it, all you see is a field of grass.
Yeah.
Like, you can't see the second roof or the grass hill. So it's just like, you're totally trusting yourself. And, but, so it's totally crazy, and especially for that time. But I still think people today, they go to it and they'd
I'm sure.
feel like it'd be insane. So, but we get there and like, we're kind of doubting him, because especially like at the time, like Garrett would kind of like, he had Garrett style and he was a rad rider, but he would talk about some gnarly stuff sometimes, but he hadn't really proven it yet. You know, like he hadn't really, I hadn't really seen him like just throw down. Like, it was always like go outside of his comfort level, but really he wasn't going outside of his comfort level. He was just that good, like, because he doesn't really go outside of his comfort level. It's just sometimes his comfort level is that gnarly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I really don't think he was stressing about it. That's the crazy thing.
When you watch the footage, it looks perfect.
I don't think he was stressed at all. Like, he went up on the roof and he looked at it once, and Derek was like, "How's it look now, Garrett?" Like, thinking he's gonna be like, "Oh, this is gnarly." Like,
yeah, yeah.
And he goes, "Looks pretty good." And then he goes back to where he starts, and he goes, "Coming down." And there's only one angle of it, because I don't remember which angle is which and who was who, but the one person totally missed it, because he literally just, that's how it transpired. "How's it look now, Garrett?" "Looks pretty good." Goes to the starting point, coming down, starts pedaling, perfect. Like, I wasn't even ready for him to do it. I turned around and he was in the air.
Wow.
I was like, holy shit. He lands perfect, and then we just carried him around on our shoulders, went home, watched the footage like a couple times, but you had to be careful because there's the tape.
Yeah, you could fuck it up.
You know, so we watched it like a couple times, and then there's like, all right, one more, and then it goes in the fireproof safe. And then, and then we watched it one more time, and then the footage just went in the fireproof safe, and it didn't come out until it was time to edit. So,
wow. Yeah, I mean, you watch that footage, and it literally looks like, I mean, it looks like he's just cruising through like a pump track or something. He lands so smooth on it.
Yeah, that's scary, you know.
When you were filming for that video, what was like the hardest trick, or the one that gave you the most problems, or maybe the scariest for that video?
I mean, maybe the ender. I mean, I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting something. It's hard to remember everything, but I mean, there maybe be a couple. Like, the ender is just the gap to rail, which nowadays doesn't seem like
the one over by Reading skate park, right?
But back then, you know, a gap to rail was kind of gnarly, and I don't know that I'd ever done like a full second stage like that before then, and you know, it didn't have the best run up, and
the rail's sketchy. I remember looking at that thing.
Yeah, it wasn't really the best setup. It's funny when I look back on a lot of the like quote like first things I did, like even the first rail I did makes no sense. But sometimes I think it's just it's more about the moment than it is the spot. Like, especially back then. Now I might be a little more picky about the spot, but back then it's just like you're there and you're feeling it, and you know you're just kind of like, you want to get it done, so you kind of like ignore that maybe the spot's not exactly perfect, and you're just like, oh, this is the time, you know, like maybe there's just a camera around, like, because I mean, it really is crazy. Like, back then, having a camera around was kind of like a special occasion.
Oh yeah,
you know, like, it's not like now where there's just a camera on every phone. It's like that was kind of cool, that was special, and like, you know, making videos is just different then, because there'd be
days like somebody would be coming to town to film, and you were like,
yeah,
throwing all your eggs in a basket, and you're like, okay, I got to get this stuff done today.
Yeah,
because that's the only day the camera's going to be here.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that like, oh, the good filmer's here. It was just like, the camera's here.
Yeah,
like it's not like oh, this guy's a pro. He's like a professional filmer. I need my footage to look good. I can't have bro cam. Like, it's like, no, there's a camera. Like you'd give the camera to whoever. I mean, even Criminal Mischief, like, there's so much bro cam in that, like, where you just hand the camera to whoever's there, and like, you know, that's kind of, I mean, I'm sure if you watch it, it's not like it's some high quality production, but it's held in high regard. But it's a lot of it is really just that. It's like just handing the camera to whoever happened to be there.
So you had the gap to second stage, and wasn't that long ice grind in Philly in that part too?
Nah, that was Criminal Mischief.
Oh, was it Criminal Mischief?
But I would say the other thing that was Criminal Mischief too. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, off the top of my head, I guess for Seek and Destroy it would just be that gap to rail. I don't know. Maybe if I watched through it, it would trigger some memory. But that's all that's coming to my mind at the moment.
Yeah, I remember we camped. Me and Ty Stavescent, and I know we ran into you that day when we camped at Reading Skate Park, and I remember both of us just like realizing that was the rail, like trying to find the skate park, and I was like, this thing is so. It seems so squirrely to me. Like it was just like that yard rail, you know. Just super wiggly. Yeah, so I mean, after you'd done that, did you guys just kind of jump right into filming for the second one, or?
Not intentionally necessarily, but I guess we kind of did.
Yeah.
Because at first, I mean, it's funny to think like this now, but when Seek and Destroy was done, I felt like I maxed out.
Oh,
like,
really? Yeah.
Like I was just like, that's all. I gave it everything. That's all I got. Like I was obviously young, and that's a silly way to think, but that's how I thought at the time. I was like, how am I going to top that?
What'd Schwinn think when that video came out?
I gave it everything I had. Yeah, I think they were psyched. I think I kind of started to develop a sort of a reputation that maybe they didn't expect. I mean, I don't know how aware John Paul was about me riding street. Maybe he had some kind of clue. I don't know, but I definitely don't think. Well, I mean, I don't think any of us, myself, I don't think expected to kind of go in the direction I did fully. It was awesome. So, I don't know. I think they were just stoked. But at the same time, I think I think John Paul was stoked. But Schwinn, is a big company. I think they were just like, yeah, we pay riders to do their job. This guy's doing his job.
It always seemed weird
because they connect it with a big company like that connects it with awards. Like they probably didn't really care about Seek and Destroy. They cared that I was on a stage with a Nora.
Yeah,
that's what they cared about.
Did it feel to you? Because it always kind of felt to me when I'd look at the Schwinn team back then that there was almost like two teams. It was like you, Wiz, Julef. I know
there was two,
and then and then it's like Jay and Asato, and it's like you never really saw you guys like intermingle that.
Well,
much.
It was separate. It was fully separate.
Oh,
it was like separate budgets, separate teams.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like John. That was the freestyle team. Was like Jay and Dave and all that. Like
Pat
those guys.
Miller and stuff.
That was considered the freestyle team, and then we were the BMX team. So like basically all the racers and dirt jumpers were on the BMX team, and all the freestylers were on the other team, and like Pova ran the freestyle end, and John Paul ran the BMX side. And it was totally separate situations, separate budgets, everything. And then, I don't know, then maybe I started to I was still on the BMX team the whole time, but maybe it got confusing when I started to do well in park contests and stuff, and I don't know if that was confusing for them, but it didn't seem to be, but originally I was put on as a dirt jumper.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like BMX in general at that time, everything was just everything was blending together. It wasn't so cut and dry with you're a freestyle guy, you're a dirt jumper. Especially that time in I think the late 90s, early 2000s, so many people most dudes then would ride almost everything you put in front of them. If you were like, hey, we're going to do the trails today, cool. We're going to go ride a park day, cool. Everybody kind of
Which is cool. I kind of preach that a lot lately because I hate seeing how, segregated people's riding is sometimes. And it's just, I would get super bored if I only rode one kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of like to promote and like to celebrate guys who are really well-rounded, all-around riders, and guys who just can have fun on anything, even more so than being good at it. Guys that can enjoy it, or at least have tinkered around with it enough to offer something and have a good time at any aspect of riding. Because I'd get super bored if I only rode street or only rode dirt or park or whatever it may be. It's I have to mix it up, or I don't think I would be interested. And maybe that's true for a lot of guys, because you do see that. You see guys just kind of disappear, and maybe that's why. Maybe they don't enjoy it enough, or don't enjoy an all-around aspect of it enough to keep it interesting for them. I don't know.
I feel the all-around thing definitely helps keep your longevity too. Just keeps you riding more. Where you're you can't.
You can just be a part of more things, which is putting you out there more, which is, allowing you to have, just allowing you to keep it going and keep the dream alive. Really, I mean, this is a dream. It really is a dream come true to be riding a bike for a living. It's like, to be able to do it as long as I have, I just feel super lucky, because it's like, you don't see, definitely beating the odds, and it's like, it's a good feeling, and it's good to have like good people behind me too that are like, all the companies I ride for, they've been in BMX a long time and they get it, so it's not like they're not looking at, they know where I stand, they know what I offer, and they're not like I said, they're not like Schwinn in the early days where they're just looking at like results and these kind of things, it's like they understand it, so it's good. It's like, and I think that feeds to the longevity too. You're not just you're not totally just a number. You actually like, there's some sort of like personal relationship there, and it's like you care about the brand and they care about you. It's not just like how many bikes are you selling. Like, I mean, that's obviously part of it. It's a business, that's why. But like, it's not just that, and that's good.
No, it definitely is. I mean, it's like, and I mean, it's kind of cool nowadays that you are seeing dudes like you and like Brian and dudes that, I feel like kind of like in the era when when you started riding and me a little bit before you, when dudes hit like 24 or 25, they just were, nixed from the whole map. And nowadays it's like, there's plenty of people that are riding and staying older riding that can appreciate, I can appreciate what you do on your bike because, I rode street. I know how hard this stuff is, and I'm older, so I know with injuries and stuff how stuff gets. And I think I've joked with Alan before that I always say, like, when you start riding BMX, you have a power meter like in a video game.
Yeah.
And, like, it just kind of gets nixed down, and there gets to a point where, like, mainly with, like, street riding where you're just like, I can't get myself to, like, the blackout, the zone out.
Right.
To get myself to do this move. I can't get myself into that tunnel vision.
Right.
And I'm like, Van must just be picking up extra mushrooms along the way because he's still got it going. And it's impressive to me because, like, I broke my leg like a few years ago and like really bad. And I know you had a bad leg break too. And it's like, I can't even bunny hop the same way I used to. So it's like, I can't really get myself into that same zone that I used to when I'd ride street. And then, I remember when you had your last leg break and then seeing you come out with that fit part, like, it's just impressive to me that you can still put yourself, out there at that level,
No, it definitely felt good to come back from that one because I think, it's a bad injury and you kind of question why you're doing things. Maybe you doubt yourself a little bit, and then you kind of wonder if other people are doubting you, and then you kind of want to prove to yourself that you can still do it. I think I just did like a little thing with Stu about this that hasn't been out yet, but like my first clip in Holy Fit, I just slammed super hard and like both my wrists. That was like one of the first scary things I tried since I was back from my leg.
Yeah,
and I just got worked.
Was it the manual down the rail?
Yeah, and I just got destroyed, and like both my wrists were super jacked. I still can't believe I didn't break one of them.
Yeah,
I couldn't ride for a month after that, but I got back up and was totally like freaking out and playing head games with myself. But I just was so like wanted to prove to myself that like I wasn't like I still had it, like I still had that, like, so I like kind of forced myself to do it, and it was, it felt really good, but it was just like this like internal struggle with myself to like kind of prove that I was still me, you know, that I hadn't lost like that, like you said, that power up or whatever.
No, it's total, like, I feel like it's a power bar, and it's like, as time goes on, it just gets nixed away from, it's like,
it's almost like a little bit of like a sort of a masculine jockment, like, it's like this battle you have with yourself. It's just like you don't want that to win, or you don't want to feel like you're not you anymore. So you're kind of, I don't know.
It is
it's hard to explain, but it's just...
No, I get it, and it's hard too because as you get older, you know, Father Time, he wins everything, and you know, you're just playing that game with him.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, how long are you gonna be able to push it? And I mean, when that part came out, I was really psyched. So,
thank you. No, I think that part means like probably more than like Criminal Mischief or
really?
Destroy mean to me, because it was a much more conscious effort. Like, I was really psyched because I still can't believe that it happened, because it was like a 5-year process. Like, you know, Fit kind of had, you know, a lot of things had changed over there, you know, for the better, you know, looking back. But, you know, there was a mix up, and so we were kind of trying to reestablish ourselves and figure some things out, and I was real motivated to kind of prove that we were still us, and like we were still there. And so we were doing a lot of trips, but we were kind of just putting out little trip edits and things like that. And I really wanted to do a full length, and I wanted to do it because some of the past Fit project had been such a clusterfuck, with like who's filming it, who's editing it, and it just would get kind of like done really quick, and be confusing. I was like, man, I want to work with someone who's as passionate about this project as I am. Yeah. You know, which is really like, the last time I had done that was on a full length was Criminal Mischief, you know? Yeah. Like, so, you know, I was really, Stu had been doing some stuff for Fit, and then I just really started pushing, like, for us to do a full length, and then we started chipping away at it. We would like kind of work on other projects, but kind of save some of the banger clips as we went, and then as a year or so went by, then it's like, all right, now we're gonna really just focus on just the video. Like, you know, we're going on a trip to film for the video, and I wanted to film the best part I could. Like, I wanted to give it 110, you know, and that's what I did, you know. And then I was pretty much couldn't film for a year of that because of my leg, but luckily I was kind of glad too, because I kind of got a head start. So like, I kind of started a little earlier than some of the guys, so that helped me a lot when I got hurt, because I'd already kind of got like a foundation, and like a lot of the clips, like I just watched it the other day because like Ride posted it up, and I realized that like my last 4 clips I think were before my leg.
Oh really?
Yeah, like I think
like your ender, the double.
Ender was like a really early one. That was super early. Wow. Yeah, that was like in Memphis, and I looked at that a couple times over a handful of years and wanted to do it a couple times, went there to do it a couple times, but it didn't work out, or like because we got kicked out or other circumstances. So, but then when we were in that area on that trip, I went, and it worked out. Like, but that was pretty early on in the filming. But yeah, I mean, I definitely got a lot of good ones after the leg break too. You know, like Salt Lake City Gap to Rail.
Oh my god, that when you that Gap to Rail, I remember going up there, seeing that with Mikey once when I was filming like for a scene report down there. You know, and the video doesn't give that Gap to Rail justice. I mean, that is some high speed. It's a big gap.
Thank you.
Yeah, so sorry to Timmy out on you on that one, but that Gap to Rail, I remember watching the video, seeing you do that Gap to Rail, and I think I was just like swearing out loud because I knew exactly the spot, you know?
That one was cool too. That's a cool story also, because I was in, we got to Salt Lake City, and we went kind of spot hunting, and I saw it, and I was like, "Whoa, my goodness!" But I hadn't really committed to the idea of doing it yet, you know. But I took a picture of it.
It's heavy,
like,
man.
You know, like I like to do that now. Like I see a spot that I like want to stew over. I'm not as spontaneous of a rider as I used to be. Like with the scary stuff, I like to think over it a little more and like go back the next day if I really want it. But so I took a picture of it, and then I get a text from Kaczynski, and he's like, "Hey, are you in Salt Lake City?" I was like, yeah. I was like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Hey, I got something that you need to handle for me." He's like, there's something I wanted to do, but I couldn't try it for whatever reason it was. I don't remember. I doubt it was because he was scared though, because it's Kaczynski. But I think maybe he got kicked out or something.
It seems like a high bust area.
Yeah, and he's like, I got something you need to handle for me. So I was like, and I texted him. I was like, is it this? And he's like, yes. and then like from then I was like, I got to do it. I got to do it for Kaczynski. And then it just took on. So then then the next day I went and I got it done, and I just like text him back a winky face, and he's just like, yes.
Was it first try?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
You don't really get like, I mean, other than maybe slipping a pedal or something, I don't know that you really.
Yeah, that's the only thing I think is like, maybe just getting a weird lean on that thing, and stomp a
foot. That's what I was scared of, because the rail is kind of long. In that sense, so I was afraid I would get that weird lean or something and end up having to like do some sketchy bail off or like high speed scary bail off. But I was going so fast that the rail didn't even feel long because I was going so fast. So I just landed and was off it before like if you were just hopping on that rail normal, it would be one of those kind of long ones where you might get like your balance off and have to jump off or pull off early onto the stairs. But I was going so fast that I was like on it and off of it before I could even think about anything. It's just like, so yeah, it worked out. Tried to. And then we saw too, it was like it felt good because I think quite a few heavy guys had looked at that spot. Like I know Rob Wise had looked at it, and we got there actually, and there was a market sticker on it, and we're like, oh shit, like. And so I was like I was already ready to go, and like Stu called Christian and was like, hey, did someone do this? Did one of you guys do this gap to rail? Because like, he's like, oh no, well like I kind of wanted to do it, but like was kind of beating around the bush a little bit. Like maybe one of them still, like Rob or Christian, still wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And Stu's like, well, the cameras are set up and Van's at the top of the stairs. Did anybody do this? And he's like, no, tell him to get it. Hell yeah, get it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was cool. It was cool, like all those guys kind of, it seemed like they had my back on it too. Like it seemed like there was like a few dudes that are like ride in that style that were like had their eye on it, but they all seemed like really pumped when I did it. Like it wasn't like anybody was like mad about it or anything. They're like, yes, that got done, and we're glad it was Van that did it.
Yeah.
Like, so that felt cool that they were like, there's people I respect, like were kind of have my back and were stoked for me on that. Yeah.
Oh, that thing's epic. You want to step back a little and talk about like your signature frame, like the mean streets and everything when you were on Schwinn? I know that a few people were like asking about it and stuff. And,
yeah, sure.
How'd that come about?
Can we take a break? Can I pee?
Yeah, go here. I'll pause. Just jumping back a little. Do you want to? How did the Schwinn mean streets frame come about? And like, was that during Criminal Mischief or was it before?
Yeah, I guess that was before. Definitely well before. But because I think I just when I first got on Schwinn, I kind of like built up like a lot of momentum pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I kind of went. It happened pretty fast. Kind of just being, and maybe it was Seek and Destroy that did that. Yeah. But I kind of went from being just this unknown kid to being, like, winning NORCUP and stuff, like, within a relatively quick time. So yeah. It was, and then, like, kind of working with Losi and those guys a lot with, like, ride, getting a lot of photos and ride and stuff. So it happened for me pretty fast. So, then I guess, I don't know, I guess that probably was John Paul's call to and talk to Schwinn about working on a frame with me. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just... Did you have the full say in what went into it, or? Yeah, yes and no. I definitely had a lot of say, and a couple times, I mean, I was a stubborn kid, so I kind of had to even, I don't know how I don't know. I approached it in the sense of I want what I want or I don't want a frame. Because there was one point where they were trying to make me do a couple things because they were Schwinn trademarks or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want it. I was like, if you're going to make me do that, I don't want, then don't give me a bike. And I was kind of a little cocky too. And I don't know, maybe I was just lucky enough to be able to get away with it at the time. But, just kind of flexing a little bit. But I guess, I mean, it wasn't really even that. I kind of meant it. It wasn't like it was, I was calling their bluff or something. It was... I don't. If this is the bike that's gonna have my name on it, I don't want it to have my name on it. So that kind of happened with a couple things, and but overall it was the bike I wanted when it came out. So, and I was able to have who I wanted make it, so it was American made. I was able to pick the welder, and so
oh wow,
yeah, like even to that level. So that was pretty cool. I still haven't gotten paid for any of them, so if anybody...
Really?
I never got my royalties for those. Like, they filed, like, they ended up, like, they still owed me that check when I left, and then they, immediately after, they filed Chapter 11. Because the way that happened was...
they're making too much beer and went out of business?
They were making too much beer?
I think John Paul made a joke that Schwinn was spending so much money, they had their own craft beer and everything... Mm-hmm. But yeah, bad joke.
they what were we talking about?
Your frame and
like when I left there, like it was weird because stuff was getting weird over there, and like maybe some of the people saw the writing on the wall. I mean, obviously I didn't know.
Yeah,
that stuff was going bad, but a lot of stuff was just weird. And one of the weird things for me, like what kind of made me want to leave, was like I said, I had kind of gained a lot more notoriety than just being the unknown kid, the unknown dirt jump kid.
Yeah.
That came within a relatively quick time. So I talked to him about, renegotiating my contract and like sign on, like in trade for like signing on for a couple more years and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they were open to it, but I don't know if this was a tactic and this wasn't John Paul at all. This was the uppers, so this has nothing to do with him. But I don't know if this was a tactic or what. But they're like, oh yeah, we can renegotiate your contract. We can do this for you. They're like, but we're gonna have to like. They insinuated or maybe even directly said that they would be dropping Wiz or maybe some other guys too, like to like make up for like my what they were giving me.
Man, they knew you guys were like close too, right?
I don't know. Like they played dumb, but I don't know. I'll never know. Like if it was
weird,
if it was some kind of weird strategy, or if they were just that naive to think I wouldn't care. Like oh, you're gonna give me more money, but you're gonna fire one of my good friends. Like oh, cool. Like no. Like so I was like no thanks. Like I won't renegotiate now. I'm gonna just continue to ride out my contract, and I'm gonna explore my options at the end of the year. Like so that's when like I started talking to Fit.
And Fit was still pretty brand new then, right?
Yeah, and I even like called, and then like I said, like that's when I started talking to Fit. And yeah, it would have been like when I got on Fit, it was around for a year, So like Mikey,
did you get on Fit 2002?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like Mikey was already on. Yeah, it was the core team.
Yeah, it was like Edwin, Justin, Mikey.
But even Edwin wasn't like one of the dudes yet. Like Edwin was still like he was getting. I mean, he was part of it, but I don't think Edwin was even officially one of the pro dudes yet. I think it was still just like, or maybe it was just maybe me and him like kind of happened around the same time. Maybe he got bumped up around the same time I got like.
What was the OG? It was like Robbie, Nate Hansen, Mikey,
Foster,
and Justin, and I feel Justin and Edwin were like those super new dudes then. So I don't know if they were like pro or
But either way, I started talking to them, and then I even, like, stuff got so weird over at Schwinn, and I think it was because they were about to file Chapter 11. I mean, I didn't know that, but I was just like, this shit's weird. It's, like, I'm not into it anymore. Like, so I called them, I was like, hey, can I get out of my contract? Like, I want to do this Fit thing. And they just they didn't really even acknowledge my calls at first. And then, like, they might have like just beat around the bush and told me no or something like at some point in there, and then a couple months went by, and then I got a phone call, and it was one of the higher up guys at Schwinn, like, hey, you're the first guy we're calling because you're going to be the only one that's not totally bummed to hear this news. And they're like, we're filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, like the whole program's done, And
oh wow.
Like, he's like, you're free to ride for Fit, And I was like, so I was stoked.
So they only did your frame for like about a year, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a pretty short run. I don't know, maybe like 200 frames were made, something like that. But it did well. They all sold. It's kind of a shame because it's one of those things. I think both my like Airwalk shoe and my Schwinn frame were both kind of in this realm where I think they both did better than they expected.
But it was right at the end.
So it was like, well, first of all, yeah, both brands were sinking.
Yeah.
You know, like with like my measly, like, I mean, it was doing good for a BMX product, but these brands were bigger than BMX. So like a good selling BMX frame isn't going to change the direction of how a company as big as Schwinn or Airwalk was doing at the time, you know. So,
and those were monster companies at that time.
Yeah, they were huge companies at the time, and but a lot of the stuff they had done before, I don't think they were used to. That they just did relatively well, and I don't think a lot of the products they had done before that in BMX had, you know.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of took them by surprise, and maybe they like didn't meet the demand because they like weren't prepared for it, you know, and then it just went away anyway. So it's whatever, you know. But you know, everything ended up.
Do you still have like a frame and a pair of shoes?
Yeah, I have all the souvenirs.
That's good.
I kept like I have a brand new Mean Street frame, and I have like brand new pairs.
I mean, I'm into the vintage stuff, and I know that's like more mid school. It's not quite vintage yet, but that era. I mean, I know people. There's dudes just hunting for Mean Street frames. You know?
I just sold one on eBay.
I saw here. Okay, I saw that, and you know, like I sell vintage stuff like a lot.
Did I blow it?
You blew it because you never posted anything saying you were gonna sell it or anything.
I did on my Instagram.
I looked and I was like, why didn't Van promote? Like, you could have blown you. I mean, this is just me thinking money. If you had promoted that thing a little more, I don't know. I was just like, I
also feel corny to like promote it too much. You know?
I know, but I was just like. One of the guys in town was bidding on it, and he missed it by like 2 minutes. I don't know. I was just like, holy shit. Because it's the one you filmed Criminal Mischief on, right?
Yeah, it was one of the bikes I rode.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, that bike will be one day, like, it's crazy to think, but one day that bike will be like, you know, it'll be worth money, you know?
That's fun.
I got Vic Murphy's frame from the 1 foot tabletop photo and ride.
That's crazy. That's cool.
You know, that just... A whole nother aspect I think of BMX is like, you know, some dudes get older, they get just more into the collecting thing and stuff, you know. And
I've just been cleaning house, like I said, I'm trying to move soon and stuff, so I'm trying to limit the stuff I have.
Yeah.
But I still have plenty of memorabilia, like the stuff that's important to me. Like I said, I still have a brand new Mean Street frame. I have like my 2 fit frames that really mean a lot to me. I have 2 brand new ones of those, and then I have like all the shoes, like all the signature shoes I've had, like. You know, even that I feel like I could scale back because there's like every colorway.
Yeah.
You know, like, but I hang on to those, and I have like all old race T-shirts. I like scaled back like all the race trophies to the ones that actually mattered. You know, so just hanging on to all that old like the nostalgic stuff, all the videos that mattered, and all the magazine stuff, and so yeah, definitely.
It can probably become a lot of stuff.
What's that?
It can probably become a lot of stuff.
It is, and that's why I've been like purging like crazy. I've been getting rid of so much stuff out of my attic, and not just BMX stuff, like just stuff in general, but a lot of it is BMX stuff. Like I had all my VHS and DVD collections, and just all that stuff went to Trey Jones, so he bought all my like old VHS tapes.
He hit me up. He's like, I'm looking for these ones. You got these ones? And I'm like, I can check for you.
And then I just sent him a random, the other day because he was so stoked on all this stuff, I was like getting rid of all these DVDs too, and I just sent the box to him. I was like, hey, what's your address? And so I just sent him a bunch of DVDs too. Like I just don't need all that. It just clutters my house, and it's just stuff to lug around if I'm going to try to move, especially because I don't even know like where I want to head next. I might even just float or like get a camper or something for a while. So I want to have like minimal stuff because I'm gonna have to store it somewhere, and you know, so we'll see.
Yeah, I know that stuff can bog you down. So, when you guys, do you want to talk about like kind of Little Devil at its peak? Because it seemed like, you know, in the early 2000s, like Little Devil was like, I mean, when you guys were doing the video and stuff. I mean, it was such like you guys, that whole team was like just, you guys had it rolling. It felt like it was just like a monster team. You guys, you know, every project you did was just awesome. How was it like kind of being involved in all that stuff?
It was fun. I mean, I was fairly young, and I think we were just, we were just stoked. So it was just happening, you know. It really just happened organically, and I don't know, like, you know, obviously, like, I was riding hard. I'm sure Derek was working hard to, like, get the brand, like, you know, off to a start, but it kind of happened quick, you know, and, like,
it blew up fast.
You know, next thing you know, we got warehouse ramps, and it's like, it seems like it's going well, but, you know, it rose and fell pretty quick too. You know, it was like, it just couldn't sustain it, you know, with, like, you don't know that then, because you're just like, oh, this is killing it, we're killing it, you know, like, but, yeah, I don't know, I just don't think it was realistic. I mean, I think it was a combination of things that led to the demise, but at the end of the day, it's just not, especially with a t-shirt brand, essentially, a t-shirt brand in BMX, essentially, it's like, on top of it, it's just not sustainable, like, the stuff that, like, was getting sold and the way it was happening. So it's like a lot of money started going out, and then it just wasn't coming in anymore. So it kind of crashed and burned. But I think it's good. I think I'm psyched for Derek now. Like, I feel like he's got, like, his life and his business, like, at a manageable place where he's happy again. Because I think for a while, like, that's stressful when you got something built up, and then it's not easy to just, like, shrink it down overnight, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so he had, like, all that stress of just, he couldn't sustain the monster he had created, you know, and that's not easy to deal with. So
was what was, like, trying to remember, you know, some of the stuff Little Devil did. For some reason, just the Orchid road trip video keeps popping up in my head. But yeah, I mean, how was it going out and filming for that second video? Like, did you guys
for Criminal Militia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that just kind of started, like, me and Garrett were getting that, like, a dual interview and ride.
Yeah.
And, so that's kind of
you guys went in on that interview.
That's kind of how Criminal Mischief started, because we weren't really, like, planning to film for another video, but obviously we were doing stuff, so we would film it, you know, but, and then, you know, Garrett tried that bleacher gap, and I tried that roof gap, and that, you know, that just kind of got the ball rolling, and then it was just, like, we kind of pretended like we weren't going to work on another video, but we were young and motivated, and we just started going out, and then footage just started stacking up, and next thing you know, it's like, all right, we're going to do some shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then that was even a more conscious effort than Seek and Destroy, where it was like, you know, I didn't want to have, like, any stock rail clips, and, like, I wanted to do stuff that people hadn't done, and it's just, like, a more progressive mindset and a more deliberate mindset to it, you know, like, and, you know, we were kind of aware that not a lot of people had just, like, gone out and, like, filmed real videos, you know. It was like, you know, maybe Domination at the time or something was, like, the only people doing that, and, like, I don't know, we were kind of just like, we can do it. I mean, it might be kind of like a jock mentality in BMX, but we're like, we can do this better.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it wasn't, I don't think it came from, like, a really a competitive place necessarily, like, maybe in a way, but more of, like, someone needs to do this right.
Yeah.
You know, like, we'd watch Welcome to Hell, like, and that's just such a cool video, you know, and you're just like, escape video, and you're just like, BMX needs this, you know,
yeah.
Like, we need to be this cool. Like, why aren't we this cool?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. That was a weird time, especially for videos, because it is kind of like right when, I mean, there was videos like, you know, Perix definitely made some awesome videos before that time and stuff, but, you know, I feel like there was a conscious place in, like, a few parts of the country where people were, like, really kind of getting serious about making videos, and the quality was going up, and, you know, it was getting gnarly at the time, you know?
Yeah.
And street riding was definitely taking a jump to where, I mean, you definitely, with the, you know, ledge manuals and the rail manual in Philly and stuff, like, I mean, you definitely sped things up. It felt like 15 years at that time, you know?
Thanks.
That rail the big rail manual, was it in Philly?
Yes.
What was that? Just had you looked at that before, or was that more spontaneous?
No, I looked at that before. I'd done the one in Seek and Destroy. I did the one, like, right around the corner. It's a much smaller one.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I had talked about trying that one, and then Losi was in town to shoot a poster, and so it was like, all right, just try it. So.
When like we talked about it earlier, like kind of how you like kind of blank out or focus on that stuff. Like when you go to do that, are you like a person that easily snaps into it, or does it take you a minute to like kind of get that focus for like something that's when you're going in to do a gnarly trick?
I mean, I feel like I can do it quick. Like I don't. Once I've made up my mind I'm going to try something, then I usually don't do a lot of run-ups or anything. Like I can say, you ready? Okay, come and because I've already like prepared myself once I get to that point. But I definitely get nervous when I'm trying something scary, and I have like weird little things that like I kind of like to focus, and like if there's like too much going on around me, it like distracts me. Like even just like pedestrians or like people talk, and I feel like I've gotten worse with that. Like in as the years have gone on, where I like less distractions even more so than then. But yeah, I don't know. It depends. I mean, it depends on what you're asking exactly, I guess. Like in a sense, like I feel like I can. If it's time to go, I can go. But doesn't mean I don't need like time to think about and kind of like prep myself for what I'm going to try. But I don't need to do it at the spot necessarily. Like I can get myself prepared somewhere else and then ride over to just like that Gap to Rail we were talking about earlier. That's one. It's like, and like the Philly Rail Manual in Holy Fit as well. It was like, we knew we wouldn't get a lot of time, so it was kind of like, you guys go set up, tell me when you're ready, I'll warm up over here, and I'm gonna come through, give it one look, and go. Because we're not gonna have time to like be dicking around and me doing run-ups, looking at this thing, going, I don't know. Yeah. All right, you ready? Oh, wait, no, okay, no, not that one. All right, all right, I'm coming. Oh no, like that whole like show. So it's like,
well, and that's the thing. It's like when you get into that zone, you haven't clicked. Because I always tell people, I go, the trick starts when you pedal away from the rail. I feel like that's when the trick starts. It's not jumping on the rail. It's like once you pedal away from it that first time, knowing that you're going to come back and hit it, the trick starts the minute you pedal away from it. And sometimes it's just harder to snap into that focus area on it. You need to sneak out, use the restroom again?
I'm good.
Okay. You got the piano? You're just the music guy tonight. Well, yeah.
Did that throw you off?
It threw me off a little. The Hello Kitty piano threw me off a little. I don't know. Yeah. Do you want to talk about like? I feel like there's maybe like a little era like after you're done filming for those videos that it always just seemed like you and Bob and a few of those dudes were just like on epic missions to go just ride crazy stuff,
Yeah, no, it was rad. I mean, we just wanted to explore, we wanted to explore the country and explore new spots. I mean, at that time a lot of people weren't. We were like kind of really set on finding just interesting, unique like training spots and stuff like that, and that wasn't like a huge thing at the time. And and I mean, I was lucky. Like I was living in a house where my rent was like $200 a month, and I was making decent, like a legit money, like a grown up would.
Yeah.
But I had bills like a kid would, so it was like I had just play money, and I would just be like, Bob, let's go on a road trip. He's like, I'm broke. I was like, no, you're not. I got money. Like, and I would just take him, feed him at Cracker Barrel, and get him hotels, and it's just like I just wanted someone to go on a trip for that shared that like that same spirit. I was just stoked to be on the road. So yeah, we would do that, and then at one point, like during that era, like I tore my ACL, which sucked because then like remember Martinez had just come out, and then he kind of ended up like tagging along with those guys a lot. Like him, Bob, and Wiz ended up doing a lot of trips, and I kind of got like I was home healing up an ACL, so I kind of got like left behind on some of those.
Yeah.
But no, that was a good. Yeah, they were good times. You know, all those old road trips. Like those guys had some good ones too. So.
Do you do any of those trips or any of those spots stick out in your mind that were either too epic of a spot or something crazy that happened on one of those trips?
Definitely spots like just like Lubbock and all those like old training spots. Yeah, like Lubbock and the still there today, like the Chattanooga spine and like going to stuff like that was just awesome. We were like just starting to like just hit the road and explore all that shit. So it was like it was rad. I remember when Bob figured out where Lubbock was.
And was that the library with all the tranny spots? Or?
Yeah, all the crazy. There's like he called it the secret city. You know, it's basically trannies everywhere. Like,
yeah.
The campus had trannies, and then the whole Buddy Holly Memorial had trannies.
Yeah.
And me and Wiz went out to that. The first time I went to that, we were in Dallas, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Dallas. There was a B3 contest, like one of those ESPN contests, and we were there for Schwinn, and we skipped practice. I rented a car, and we drove 6 hours to Lubbock. Was it 6 or 4? I don't know. I'll somewhere in there. Let's just say even 4. I don't know, but
it was a drive that's long enough to where you're like, we're in the car for a minute.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll say 4, whatever. I don't know, but so we skipped practice, rented a car, drove 4 hours, rode the trainees for like 2 hours, and then drove 4 hours back, and then got up the next morning and just had like a little bit of practice right before the contest, and then I don't think I did that great in that one, but that's Wiz's claim to fame because he beat both Jay Miron and Dave Mira in that contest.
Really?
He made finals and like both Jay and Dave choked and like Wiz made finals and beat both of them. So
that's crazy.
He still brags about that.
I would. I brag for Bruce for winning the X Games. Sometimes he'll be hanging. I'm like, yeah, this guy Bruce won the X Games. You know.
That's pretty crazy.
So now it feels like nowadays, it feels like you're spending a lot of time between like, your home base and down in Virginia, right?
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend Sophia, she lives up near me now, but up until just recently, she lived down in Richmond, Virginia. So I would drive down there quite often, and I've really just come to be fond of that area. I love
that. It's got a good scene there, doesn't it?
I love that city. I love the scene. So it's like, it's just Richmond, someplace I'm really stoked on, and like love hanging out there. So I've gotten to be like, me and Crandall are old friends. We've been friends for a long time, but being down there a lot, we've gotten even closer, and so a lot of good things coming out of that town for sure, and a place I like being a part of. It's again that same vibe like I was talking about earlier with like our warehouse spot recently, like where you just like, it's just good people, good scene, and it just gets you pumped to want to be part of BMX and go out and ride. Like, it doesn't feel forced. Everything just kind of happens, I
mean, that's the best thing. It's just like, I think that's why everybody, rides in the first place. You just like find a group of dudes and, just have fun on the bike and the adventures that, it brings. So,
yeah, no doubt.
Here, you want to answer a few of the questions that we've gotten on Instagram?
Sure, let's do it.
I know Bruce was chomping at the bit to have you answer a question, so here, let me pull them up really quick. All right, we'll just scroll through them and see what we got here. There's a lot of them. All right, this guy Andreas Johnson wants to know what your favorite trick and spot is.
My favorite trick and spot. I mean, that's kind of an impossible one to answer because it's like I said earlier, like if I rode only one type of thing or just only did like one type of thing, I mean, it would just get, but I mean, I guess I would take a tabletop, like it's, tabletops and 360s would be the funnest tricks because they're like, I feel like they're the most simple and you can do them on any discipline, street, dirt, park, whatever, like, you're gonna throw a tabletop in there at some point, and like threes are just fun to spin on whatever. So, I don't know if I could pick a spot, but maybe FDR if you force. Yeah, maybe FDR. If I had to ride one spot forever, probably be FDR, and I'd do a lot of tabletops.
All right. A guy named Sick Matt wants to know, before Corey Martinez blew up, there was a brief moment where Josh Hino was tearing street a new asshole, especially in his Nowhere Fast section. Was Josh ever an inspiration for you on your rail game?
Yeah, I would say like that Hino definitely with Nowhere Fast. The two El Toro clips, the ice pick and the overgrind on El Toro at the time, that was pretty groundbreaking, and I would say that definitely like inspired me. Like I would like seeing some of Hino's like overgrinds and stuff probably pushed me in that respect.
Yeah,
maybe more so than I've even realized. Maybe thinking about it now, maybe because overgrind's one of my favorite tricks. Something I like to kind of like try to take to new levels and stuff.
Yeah.
So
the one he did with the drop where his foot didn't hit the ground, but the last one where he does with the drop on the side is really gnarly.
So maybe gnarly nowadays. Doing those pushed me more. Like I definitely remember sweating those two moves and being like, wow, that shit is crazy. But maybe more so than I ever realized. Maybe it kind of pushed me to like kind of get my overgrind game.
Yeah.
On point.
Yoli Williams wants to know, do you ever feel pressure to keep up with modern trends or tricks in BMX? I know we kind of touched on that a little.
I don't now. Like I feel like there was a point kind of after Criminal Mischief, you kind of build off that. You kind of have that for a little while where everybody's like psyched and you're kind of, and then like when you're not the latest and greatest, you start to like question things. You're like, oh, what am I doing? What do I need to do? Like, and so I feel like that was a point where I like stressed out a little bit as to like where I was at, where my riding was at, where my career was at, and now I don't. Now I'm like not even a little bit. Like I'm gonna ride the way I want to ride, and I feel like to me, I think that's what like people would want to see me do anyway. Like I don't think at this point in my life people want to see me try to like learn the newest hippest street move or like take my brakes off. Like it's just not me, and if I'm doing it just look desperate at this point. It's not like so I'm gonna ride the way I want to ride, and like that's at this point I'm totally comfortable with that. And even like being on trips, I used to kind of put pressure on myself to kind of like do something scary or crazy, and like even if I wasn't finding the spot that seemed right for me. Yeah. But now I know that like if I roll up to a spot and I'm not into it, I'm not gonna ride it, or I'm not gonna like push myself to do something on it. I'm gonna do what feels right to me, and if jibbing around feels right, I'm gonna jib around. If doing something scary feels right, I'm gonna do something scary. If sitting on my bike and watching someone try a flat ledge trick feels right, I'm gonna do that. So I don't feel like I need to. I know myself well enough now to know that when it's right, and I'm gonna do it. I'm not just being lazy or being a wuss. I'm gonna like step up when it feels right for me to step up and get something done, or just have fun. Like I'm gonna ride when and the way I want to ride. That's what you should do. It's easy now.
Cody Highwalker wants to know what's your favorite clip you've ever filmed?
Wow, that's a hard one.
They're hitting you with these hard ones.
Favorite clip I've ever filmed. I might have to go, and this is tough. I'm just pulling this out of thin air. There's probably other stuff I'm forgetting, but I might go with the pen rail manual in Holy Fit.
That was gnarly, man.
Because that is like a fantasy. That rail has always been like kind of legendary since I saw people do it in old skate videos, and it was always like a Philly staple. Like everybody would come through and like grind the pen rail. That was like the coveted. And it's just something I remember. Like even when I ice picked it in Criminal Mischief, it was like, that's when I was manualing rails and stuff, and we just joked about it. It's like one of those things that like. you joke about, and it didn't even seem like a real thing. Like manualing, it didn't even seem possible in our heads, but we just. And then as time progressed, it starts to seem like real, like wait, that could actually happen, you know.
Yeah.
And then we were working on this project, and it just became a priority on my list. And then the way it happened, it just shouldn't have even worked. So for it to all like come to fruition and for it to be like a real thing that actually happened, it felt like a dream. Like it really like. Rolling away from that felt like a dream. It was like this did not just happen.
That area's kind of a high bus spot too, isn't it?
Yeah.
That I've seen that rail. That's awesome. I'm gonna kind of combine these two questions. I can't pronounce one of the dude's names, but this part of it's from Eddie Doesn't Ride. He said Road Fools 5 was stacked with top riders at that time. Do you have any good stories from that trip? And then a dude asked, do you have any good stories from any Road Fools or all the props trips you went on? Because, I mean, you went on a lot of Road Fools, you know?
Yeah.
Or let's start, how was it like when you first got invited on Road Fools? How did that feel?
No, that was super rad because getting invited on Road Fools was really cool because I remember... Road Fools 1, like Derek went on it and I was hanging out and riding with him and filming Seek and Destroy and stuff at the time, and I was super jealous that like he was going on that trip, and I was laid up with a torn ACL at the time, and so I'm 18 I think 17 or 18 with a torn ACL, so I'm going stir crazy. Like, you know, now I get hurt like that, I can pop some Percocets and watch Netflix and strum the guitar a little bit and be content, you know. But back then, I'm like, I want to ride.
Yeah.
And so I was so jealous of that trip, which in retrospect, I'm kind of glad I wasn't tagging along with Derek on that, because I probably would have just like annoyed and pissed off all my heroes, and they'd probably all still hate me to this day. So I'm kind of glad I wasn't on Road Fools 1. But yeah, I mean, you know, so by the time Road Fools 4 came around, and I was super psyched, because like, again, Derek had kind of plugged me in with Marco, and you know, I remember the first time he threw my name out there, like you said, everybody that thought I was just a dirt jumper, so they're like, oh, Derek's like, you need to take Van Homan on one of these trips, and he's like, oh, really? He's like, the dirt jump kid? He's like, can he ride street? Derek's like, fuck yeah, he rides street, you know, like you know, and then it just kind of went from there, and I ended up being really good friends with Marco from there, and like, he was kind of almost like a big brother to me in a lot of ways, like, kind of, I would like always sit in the front of the bus, and Marco would just, I don't know, just talk to Marco.
You would always be in the front of the bus.
Like,
when I was on the trips, I mean, that's where you always were.
Yeah, I would just sit in there, like, I would really just, like, I would ride up front with Marco and just talk to him about life and shit, you know, just getting all, like, but he was kind of, like I said, he was kind of like a big brother, like, figure to me, where he would just give me advice on life and career and money, and, you know, just kind of trying to, like, steer me in the right direction, so that was always rad, you know.
Yeah, Marco's a good dude.
Yeah.
Any good stories from any Road Fools or any prop strips you want, any, like, maybe one story you want to tell?
Trying to think of something that, like, wasn't in the video. I mean, obviously, like, this is in the video, one of the videos, but when we had the Backstreet Boys sign on the front of the bus, and we pulled into, like, some music festival, and they started, like, pointing us into some VIP area and telling us where to set up. That was pretty funny.
How far did you guys get with that?
Not all that far, because we wanted to go ride, so we, like, didn't even really push it how far. Like, we pulled back into the area and we're hanging out for a little bit, and then, like, we just pulled out. They were probably confused, like, where are they going? But, but yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if they actually thought we were the Backstreet Boys, but we probably just looked like we were. They just assumed we were someone important because we were in that bus. But yeah, I don't know. That's. I'm trying to think if there's something else that. I don't know. That's all I can think of at the moment.
I think those trips, in my head, all those trips, some of them blend together. I get confused a little.
Yeah.
Somebody want to know, was there ever kind of a rivalry between Little Devil or Square One?
No, I don't think there was a rivalry Nah, there was no rivalry. I mean, when Chris left to like kind of try to do it on his own, that might have been a little weird, like between those guys. But that's their business. So
yeah. Team Sano from all the way over in Scotland wants to know what's the scariest clip you ever filmed. Did we already go over that or what?
No, I didn't say scariest. God, I don't know.
You don't have to pick the scariest. I mean, just maybe one that you can think of that maybe. I mean, there was a lot of scary ones.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I mean, maybe the tail whip, and I mean it's hard. This is a tough one. I mean, because there's a lot that would probably be on like the same wavelength, but definitely the tail whip and Stay Fit. My Ender and Stay Fit was a pretty scary one. That whip, like
the whip over the fence.
Yeah. I mean, that was like, and that again, that was kind of like a dream come true too. Because even before I could do tail whips, I had this like that fantasy in my mind of like, it didn't even seem real. This is before like anybody's even doing bunny hop whips. Like I just had this fantasy in my mind of just like going full speed, and like it's like one of those. It's like now when I wake up and I can just nose wheelie as long as I want.
Yeah.
And then I wake up and like, oh, I can't really do that. It was like the same kind of thing, but then like you make it real, and like to just pedal at something full speed like that and whip it. It's just a full commit kind of trick, and like if you get that whip locks up or something, it's just going to be bad, you know. So it just that one definitely scared me, and I like didn't sleep well the night before knowing I was going to try it, and like I didn't even tell anyone I was going to try it. Like they thought I just wanted to do the gap, and then like I was like I did the gap, and everyone was like stoked and cheering and acting like that, and I was like no, I got something more, and then like Taco was like, sure, he was filming it, and he was like, sure, I was going to try a bar, you know. And he's like, what, bar? And I was like, nah. I was like, whip. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, you know, and he was like, but you could tell he wasn't expecting that. And, I mean, like I said, that's a tough one, because I think there's probably a bunch of clips that I would put on that same like plane over the years of fear factor. But that's definitely one of them.
This is more of somebody saying hi, but I guess this is John Heaton's nephew, and he says he's sitting with John, and they both want to tell you hi.
What up, John?
This one's from Tony Piff. He's a Portland local, and he said, you used to be the young kid who kind of came out of nowhere. Now you're an icon who's been on top forever. How do you feel being like an older guy riding around 16-year-olds a lot? Does it make you feel old? When was the moment you kind of felt a shift, if there was?
It's a little strange, because you are kind of like, when did that happen? Like, when did I become the veteran? You know, because for me, it feels like I blinked. Like I was, like you said, the young kid on Road Fools that was just looking out the window, ecstatic about every spot, like jumping up and down and being hyper and annoying. And now it's here, and I don't think it feels weird, because I also think that you kind of touched on BMX has kind of established a little bit more of a history, and it doesn't feel like it's just for kids anymore.
No, definitely not.
You know, grown-ups love BMX, grown-ups ride BMX, and it doesn't feel to me like it's a kid's sport. And I think BMX is rad, because if you enjoy it, you can do it as long as you want to do it. Yeah. It's not like football where like, oh, I want football, but my glory days of high school are done, and where can I play football now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's cool. Like you can, and there's so many ways to be a part of it, and so many ways to be stoked on it. So, you know, being around younger kids doesn't bum me out, because first I'm stoked to see them stoked, and second of all, it's like my life and my riding doesn't have to be just like that 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
My life and my riding can be whatever I want it to be. So we just have that common bond of BMX, which I think is cool. Like I said, that brings, a lot of times it brings people together that aren't necessarily like-minded in every way, and then it kind of tends to open your mind. You know?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think it's rad to hang out with. Like I like that. Like that sometimes BMX kind of erases like that age gap. Like sometimes you're hanging out with kids and it's almost like weird, like it's almost creepy. Like if someone like outsider, like they would be like, why are you hanging out with this kid?
Yeah.
It's like, well, because we ride.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And like to us that makes total sense. But like to the outside world it would almost seem creepy. Like why is this 36-year-old man hanging out with this 15-year-old kid? It's like, well, because we're shredding. Like, what do you mean? Like
yeah, we're having a good time.
Is that weird?
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. It like kind of bridges that.
Yeah, I'm amazed we didn't touch on this earlier, but can you want to go into the story of like the Van Halen cease and desist on your stickers?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. Really, I mean we obviously ripped off the logos, and someone that worked for Van Halen saw it in a BMX Plus, and so we just got a cease and desist. Like we couldn't make those stickers or that frame or whatever anymore. I guess really just the stickers, but so it's really just that simple. But I still have the whole letter like saved. It's like pretty funny.
I got one from GT. I saved it too.
Yeah. Oh, just for goods, you got one.
Yeah, because we used to have the G with the wings.
Yeah, I remember.
And we got one from them, and so I saved it. I have it in the back of the shop framed.
I'm just surprised they cared. Yeah.
So we got a few more. Well, we kind of touched on that one. Rich Hirsch wants to know, if you want to maybe go over this, who are your favorite riders, or who are maybe guys that you looked up to riding, or?
I mean, that just depends on like what era you're talking about, but I mean like growing up, like as far as like my favorite riders growing up and that I looked up to was like Chris Bennett and then like Joe Rich and Taj, you know, like just kind of like Chris for like the way he rode dirt and his style, like no footed cans and stuff like that, and then for, you know, Joe and Taj is just the way they were like pushing things on the street, like Joe would like gap to rails and stuff, and then so I mean that's like some of my early influences, and then obviously you know, just my friends, so like Garrett Burns, you know, just still one of my favorite riders and just one of my big influences, and so yeah, I don't know.
That's a good answer. Stephen Hamilton wants to know if you can walk us through the moments up to the manual tap to gap rail at the ender of Criminal Mischief.
Yep.
He wants to know, did you feel it out with a gap? Did you gap to it regularly first, and then how did it go down? Did you pull it first try? He kind of just wants to know a little more info about that.
Well, that one was right around the corner from the house I was living in at the time, and I was going to my brief little stint at college, so I was going to class that day.
Yeah.
And Garrett was meeting up with me to go ride, so he drove down from Jersey, and so he was waiting for me at my house, and for whatever reason, I like that day, I just got it in my head that I wanted to try it. Like it was right near my house, and it was one of those things that I just always like looked at and was like, I want to do this sometime, and like, I don't think Derek thought it was one of the things that I like was really gonna do. I think he just thought I was like, oh, imagine this, you know?
Yeah.
And then that day I just got in so I remember driving home and I started getting real nervous and like my hands started sweating like on the steering wheel and stuff. I'm like, and I just walk in the house and I was like, let's go, guy, I got something I want to try, and I just like put the camera on his back and the camera bag on his back, and we like pedal over there, and then he sets up, and I just did like manual gap to stairs a bunch of times, like like into the second stage stairs, and then finally I was like, all right, I guess I'm as comfortable as I'm gonna get, and I tried it, and it worked first try, and it was rad. It was just Garrett filming it, just bro cam style, and so
definitely that one blew my mind when I saw it. So
it's funny. A lot of people would ask if it was like an ice pick or something, like because the sound my tire makes. It's like, like some people.
It's like more of like you almost bonk off of it.
Yeah,
it's like
well, it's short and fast, so it's more of a bonk than a manual. But which I think makes it cooler. Like it's one trick instead of like
settling, like you settling into it. Yeah,
it's like commitment from the start.
Malali Bike Park in New York wants to know, when you're coming to the Bronx, and then what's like the gnarliest thing you've had happen with something breaking on your bike?
Oh man, I'd be stoked to get up there. I've been to that park once. I'd be stoked to check it out again.
Yeah, I know they're like getting some money from the city and kind of redoing it and stuff right now.
Yeah, you guys should hit me up and figure something out.
Hit Van up.
Figure out. But so with something breaking on my bike?
Yeah, have you had like anything crazy break, like to where?
God, I don't even like to talk about that. That's scary. But I think I've been relatively lucky in that regard. I mean, like, I don't feel like I've ever had anything break that I feel like's put me like in like equipment fail that's put me. I mean, obviously a lot of broken cranks and stuff that have drilled my heels into the ground on big gaps or something like that, which is no fun, but you can't be shocked. But luckily I've been, honestly, I mean, I've been with Fit since 2002, and I don't think anyone's doing it better. The buildings like S&M and Fit, it's like there's not a lot of. I mean, a lot of people have caught up now, so there's a lot of good products out there, but like. I don't think many brands are making stuff that good. So I mean, I've been lucky to be able to like trust my frame and my forks and my bars, and like, I'll change the stuff at a reasonable time, and I always run like the stronger forks. I never like if a company I ride for is making like a thinner, lighter fork, I don't run it. I run the stronger, heavier fork. So. I've been generally. I can't think of like an equipment fail that's like really put me in trouble, other than just like broken cranks. But that's
if you're doing a big get. Yeah. Somebody asked. I did a podcast with Blyther that just was posted a little bit ago. Somebody asked him the same thing, and he's like, I broke a couple pedals. But I mean, it's one of those things too. When you're sponsored for as long as you are, you're not going to ride like. You're not going to let your bike get to a piece of shit status either,
But see, that's surprising with someone like Blyther, because like I'm lucky because I'm more from an era where products had gotten better, because the truth is, like, even in my earlier days of riding, they had beefed everything up so much that like it was, our bikes were 20 pounds heavier than they are now. But the stuff was still strong. But BMX went through a phase where everything was super light, and then like everything was breaking, and then they just started beefing it up, and then kind of when I started coming up and like really like starting to push myself, like you could kind of trust the products. I mean, forks bend easier, bars bend easier, but like you could still like they bent, they didn't snap, So, and then things just got beefier and beefier until like the weight finally like. And the technology started to get better so that we could have something that was that strong, but not 40-pound bikes.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing that's happened to you while out filming? Like, maybe the sketchiest story of filming? I think I've heard a few of them, but.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Trying to think if there's something more interesting. I mean, the sketchiest stuff is just getting jumped or robbed.
Didn't you get jumped or robbed at gunpoint once?
Yeah, I got gunpoint. Like the dude took the camera and he was like, I guess we were in a kind of seedy area, and the guy had.
What city was it in?
It was in Philly. It was like North Philly, and then the guy had like probably had his eye on us at some point, and then we were. Pedaling, it sucks because we were actually pedaling out of that area, and I had to like stop. I had like someone got a flat, and I had to stop to like I had the camera on my back, and I was like riding their bike on my bars, and I had to like stop to adjust the bike, and the guy just ran out of nowhere, and he's like, you're the motherfucker I was looking for. Give me that camera. And I kind of like hesitated, and then he like pulled out the gun and was just like, give me that fucking camera. And then I was like I was so dumb that I was like trying to get the tape. I was like, let me just get the tape. There was like footage on there that like there was the rail to rail that I do in Criminal Mischief was on that tape, and then there was a bunch of stuff of like dual lift that like a rail to 180 that he had tried like 100 times to get
The one
done.
at the beginning of his part?
No, there's one that isn't in there, like it never got redone.
Because did he end up getting the tape?
Yeah, he just like started freaking out, and I just gave him the whole bag, you know?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't trying to stand around while I took a tape out, or, you know.
You're like, dude, just relax. You can take a camera. I just want this thing.
Yeah.
All right, here, let me... maybe you and you know our buddy Travis from up in Tacoma? You guys arm wrestled down at Texas Toast?
Oh my God, yeah.
I think he wants to know how many copies of Over the Top do you have featuring I think he's just giving you a dig at your guys' arm wrestling stint. I was trying to figure it out for a second.
No, just so everybody knows, Travis is like the nicest dude, but he's the biggest beast of a man.
Oh yeah.
Like ever. Like no joke. I just wanted to see, like, obviously I knew I like couldn't beat him at arm wrestling.
He's like a tree trunk for a
but
human being.
I wanted to see if I could even like give him resistance. Like I honestly I couldn't even give him I couldn't even slow him down. And it's not like I'm a small dude.
No,
you know, like I couldn't even slow his arm down. Like he would just put it to the ground as if I wasn't even trying, like at all. Like he would just knock my hand. Fuck it, whatever, Travis.
Don't worry, I arm wrestled Travis too, and he whooped me too. So, A Journey Through Time wants to know what do you like to do other than ride bikes?
Actually, right now, I mean, I feel like I'm in a really rad place in my life because I'm really enjoying riding, but I'm just like enjoying everything that riding, all the opportunities that riding allows me to have as well. Like just this week, you know, I'm just in Portland for a few days, you know, working on some ideas, you know, it's just you like as we grow up, like people develop more habits, and like we are interested in more things than just riding. So it's like, you know, we're hitting these amazing parks, but then we're also like waking up and like I'm going fishing with Casey, and like, you know, we're just checking out spots and just other interesting things, and that's like something I really enjoy doing with my lady too. Like we're always traveling and always exploring, and you know, like going out on our motorcycles, going out in the canoe, and just you know, so just like exploring the world, really. You know? And that's what's rad about BMX too. It's just a great tool to like kind of like help you experience life. It gets you out there more. It gets you knowing more people and seeing more things. And then as you grow up more, you figure out like that you enjoy a lot more than just riding, but you kind of enjoy it through riding, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You know Nuno.
Yeah.
Nuno wants to know if you could morph any three riders into the ultimate BMXer, who would be the three you'd choose? And why?
Let's see. I think I would take like a flatlander, and then someone with a lot of balls, and then someone that can pedal really fast. Because if you think about, if you took that technical skill and bike control ability and combine that with someone with no fear and a lot of speed, you're gonna end up with some really cool shit.
So maybe Kevin Jones, Jay Miron, and Brian Foster.
There you go. Let's do that.
That'd be pretty gnarly. Yeah, I don't want to ask you that one. Bruce Chrisman wants to know, we can kind of end it on this one because it's the last question. What is the most gratifying trick or line you pulled for any of your video parts?
I think that we already...
I guess we already kind of touched on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, then we actually answered that exact question because you did Bruce first. Remember? Because you were like Bruce. I think that was the first one you asked me.
Yeah, I've hit my head a few times.
That's because I think you started at the bottom.
Yeah.
Now you're here.
Well,
that was so terrible.
that's a good terrible thing to end it on.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Unless there's anything you want to throw in, or anybody you want to thank, or anything, or.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a no-brainer to thank like all the brands that have had my back and for as long as they've had it. You know? So it's like obviously Fit and Chris Muller, and then you know, the Duo guys and G Sport, Scott and Dan's Comp over there. That's like a really rad thing to have been part of the past few years, and that just seems like it's better and better all the time.
Scott Town's a G, so I mean,
Almond, just like to be like working on my new shoe with those guys, and have an opportunity like that. So and you know, riding for Bell helmets has been like a really rad thing too. Like it's just like such a classic brand, and their like history, and then the way it connects with like my dad and my grandfather rode Bell helmets racing boats years ago. And I ride one, and like all the perks that come with that, being able to like have the moto helmets and stuff.
Did they used to have the little fiberglass race boats?
Yeah.
My dad did that too.
Yeah. Like my grandfather, like there's actually a Bell piece about that, about like the connection with like my grandfather and father racing boats, and then me racing BMX, and my grandfather actually had like some world records and stuff back in the day. So yeah, he was, and
my dad just sunk a few boats, I think, right?
I think they did that too.
Yeah.
I think they did that too. But
I just remember being real little, getting in those boats, like probably like 6 years old, and just being scared out of my mind while my dad just blasted around lakes and those things.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, well, cool. Thanks for doing this with me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Shad.
Yeah. All right.
Snakebite.